Okay, Shalom Ohad. Shalom, member of Knesset. How are you?
Shalom, Rabbi Yit. How are you? I'm good. Thank you very much for having me.
It's an honor and privilege. It's so great to see you again. I know our paths have crossed in the past, and it's good to see you. And I appreciate your willingness to speak to the people of Congregation Beth Jacob here in Atlanta. I know I've told you about the Shul in the past, but it's really a special group of people. Very dynamic, largest Orthodox synagogue in the area. A lot of connections to Israel and passion, and I know people are very eager to hear from you. And to all the viewers from Beth Jacob, Ohad Tal, member of Knesset Ohad Tal, is a member of the Religious Zionist Party. He's a chairman of the Public Enterprises Committee in the Knesset, if I'm not mistaken, and a member of the Security and Foreign Affairs Committee, Economic Committee, Diaspora and Absorption Committee. Does a lot of good things for the Jewish people, both in the Knesset and beyond. Thank you again for joining us. It's a true honor.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Okay, good. So if we could start our conversation here, this period of time that we're in between Pesach and Shavuot has a lot of days that are very significant to our people. If we could maybe first start off with a little bit some of the darker chapters. Yom HaShoah is a day that is marked in Israel as an opportunity to reflect on the horrors of the Holocaust. And while I don't necessarily want to talk about Yom HaShoah specifically, I know each one of us as Jews have a history of being violently displaced from our countries of origin. We've been persecuted over the many centuries, and I'm just curious to know, as a way to kind of get to know you a little bit, what's your family's story? Because you and I have met a few times. I've never actually heard it. I'm sure it's fascinating. And how did you get to where you are?
Wow, what a question to open with. My parents coming from very different places. My mother comes from Morocco. My father is from Turkey. They both came to Israel more or less about 70 years ago. My father came here when he was 9 from Turkey, and my mother when she was about 5. And I grew up here in this country. Uh, been here of course, my father served in the army. Been to many of the wars that we had in this country. And we are in a very unique time in history because I believe that what happened on October 7th is not just that we had the war with Hamas, that, of course, a surprise, the attack by Hamas, the most horrible massacre since the Holocaust, basically. But in the Middle East, what Hamas actually did is much more than that, because he basically proved everybody here in the Middle East for the first time in 76 years. I mean, Yahya Sinwar did in one day what all Arab armies tried to do for 76 years and failed, and that's to prove that Israel is not as strong as they may think, that Israel is vulnerable, that everybody thought that you cannot penetrate through the Israeli intelligence, the best in the world. You cannot penetrate the defense systems of Israel, and he proved it possible. And being weak here in the Middle East is a very dangerous thing, because when you're weak here, everybody wants to come and grab a bite. We've seen what happened 3 weeks ago when Iran decided to directly attack Israel. I mean, this is something that never happened before. Iran never directly attack its rivals. They always use proxies. I mean, we all know the biggest supporters of Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, of course, Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza and in Judea and Samaria, and suddenly directly attacking Israel because they felt that Israel is weak. So it's a very sensitive, very delicate times here in Israel. Um, but you also have to remember that it's not the Holocaust. I mean, I hear so many people talking about this is the end of the country. We are just like in the Holocaust. No, I want to remind everybody that during the time of the Holocaust, in one day, over 40,000 Jews were murdered. And here, yeah, we've suffered a very a tough hit. But I mean, we took a zip of the glass of poison that our grandfathers and grandmothers that was their whole life, and we took just a small zip of that, to feel what it was for like 5 seconds in the Holocaust, but it's not the Holocaust. I mean, thank God we have a state, we have an army, we are fighting back. Yes, it's complicated. Yes, we have problems, but it's not the Holocaust.
Thank you. Yeah, that's powerful. And speaking of the army, you just mentioned that what's different is we have brave warriors who took up arms on October 7th. Many of them on their own without any guidance, but since then, many others as part of the response of the world's only Jewish state to this horrible massacre of Jews as Jews. And I think from what I've seen, a lot of those stories provide glimmers of hope and a path forward in terms of the kind of leadership that the Jewish people deserve and can see in the future. You have young men coming back from the battlefield with a very different perspective on the future of the Jewish people and what that should look like. What are some stories that maybe speak to you in terms of either someone who has fallen, who has left a legacy, as well as those who are still with us but have shared a new perspective, reservists especially coming back from the battlefield?
So I want to share with you two answers about this question. Before I'll tell you a story about some of the people who died or joined this fight. Um, I speak many times. People ask me, how could it even be? How could it possible that it happened? I mean, really, the Israeli intelligence is the best in the world. So how could it be that you were so surprised by this brutal massacre? And I think that the problem wasn't that we had lack of information, because we had everything. We knew all. We had the booklets with all their plans, exactly how to attack and where from. We had everything, all their plans. So what was the problem? The problem wasn't lack of information. The problem was lack of understanding. We wanted to believe. We wanted to believe, that if we will give them pieces of our land, if if we will improve their economy and give them more job permits, then slowly but surely they will abandon their desire to destroy us. But I stick with so many soldiers who are coming back from Gaza, telling me that they realize what Golda Meir said in the 70s, that the Arabs hate us more than they love their children. That's the reality. And I think this is our mission, is to wake up and face the reality. And of course, on that day, on October 7th, we hear so many stories of so many soldiers. Everybody spoke about this, the younger generation here in Israel who is addicted to TikTok and all these and I don't know, Instagram and whatever. But all these brave people took their arms, and without even getting the command, they just went down south, protecting lives. One family I want to point out is I'm very close to Rabbi Doron Perez. I I was the deputy director of World Mizrachi when he was the CEO, and we worked together for so many years. And he has two sons in the army. One of them was at home, and one of them was a tank commander in the army. And when the first son heard that there's a war starting in Gaza, immediately he ran down south. He participated in the battle. He was injured himself and kept fighting the whole day. His brother took the tank, and they were all by themselves, and they were just near one of the kibbutzim, and they fought the whole day with one tank. Even when they ran out of ammunition, they kept on fighting, running over the terrorists with the tank until, unfortunately, they didn't make it anymore, and there were too many terrorists attacking them, and unfortunately, Daniel, one of the two brothers, were kidnapped into Gaza. Unfortunately, about a month and a half ago, we got the information that he was actually murdered on October 7th. They got a video from Gaza. They found a video from Gaza where they see his body. So thank God. I mean, they had enough blood. They found his clothes with enough blood so they could have a burial ceremony. But you see, two brothers, you know, fighting with everything they have until their last breath. One was injured, the other was kidnapped and murdered, and they were fighting with everything they can. By the way, they were just 50 meters from each other. They didn't even knew that. They were fighting 50 meters from each other. They didn't even knew that. And thanks to them and to many other heroes that we have in this generation, of course, the plans of Hamas were not just to take control of several kibbutzim. Their plans were much bigger than that, but we've stopped them. And again, that's the difference between the Holocaust and today. Now we are fighting back.
Excellent. Yeah, and the story of Rabbi Perez's family is extremely inspiring. We've heard from him right after October 7th. A few weeks later, our rabbi went to Israel and met with him, and he made some videos for us. And it's a tragic ending, unfortunately, but their ability to have some closure is something.
Yep.
Right. You know, all of this is you know, it's sad, it's heavy. This is a different Yom Ha'atzmaut, I'm sure, that you will be having than you've ever had in your life. It's probably different from any Yom Ha'atzmaut Israel has ever had since its founding. But at the end of the day, it's a day of hope, and a day of celebrating the existence of the first independent Jewish state in 2,000 years. How are you approaching it? How are you framing it? What do you think is the best way to mark Yom Ha'atzmaut this year?
I think that the best way to celebrate Yom Ha'atzmaut is to better understand who we are. And you know, I often talk about what I believe is the greatest challenge of our generation. I think every person should ask himself, what is the biggest challenge in my generation? What is my mission? Now, I believe that the biggest, and I'm talking about it already for 10 years, I believe that the biggest challenge of our generation is the challenge of identity. And if I have like just a couple of minutes to explain, you know, for 2,000 years, the biggest challenge of the Jewish people was not about identity, because when we were in exile without a state, so whether we liked it or not, we knew exactly who we are. The challenge was to survive. It wasn't about identity. 76 years ago, when we had the biggest miracle of all and we established the Jewish state of Israel, the challenge changed a bit. It wasn't only now about surviving. Now it was more about how are we forming our physical existence. But in the past 30 years or so, something new happened. For the first time in 2,000 years, a Jewish kid wakes up in the morning, and the biggest question he has on his mind is not about whether he's going to survive till the night, yes or no. That's not this is not what he has on his mind. As we've said before, he has much more time to be on TikTok and Instagram and Minecraft, and we have a strong army and we have a strong economy and everything is great, and he's much more busy with planning his next trip to Cambodia. I don't know. So suddenly, for the first time in 2,000 years, we've started also to ask ourselves, just a second, who we are. Why are we here? What does it even mean to be a Jewish state in 2024? What does it mean? And, you know, and I think, by the way, if you take every political debate or any debate you've seen in Israel in the past 30 years or so, and you look deep, what is it really about? When we argue whether to have peace with the Palestinians, yes or no, whether to give pieces of our land to the Palestinians, yes or no, yes judicial reform, not judicial reform, yes Bibi, no Bibi, all these questions, what is it really about? It's about identity. We are fighting to get a better answer of what does it mean to be a Jewish state in 2024. That's the question. This is the challenge, and then we need to give a good answer for this question. And I will maybe also connect that to what you're maybe experiencing now in America. We see the rise of anti-Semitism in America. There's a crazy anti-Semitism, which, you know, images that we've thought that are only belong to history. I mean, we've seen that in Berlin in 1938. Now we're seeing the same thing exactly happening in college campuses in New York, in America. Who could have believed that this is what is happening? So I believe that we have to better understand who we are. We have to go back to our roots. And I can also tell you, part of our ability to here in Israel to win this war is to understand who we are, to go back to our identity. Because if we want to understand what we're fighting about, it will be much, much harder for us to win this war. Because when some countries trying to tell us, Gaza is not yours, and then we're saying, well, maybe you're right, then we don't understand what we're fighting about. And so again, the challenge is identity. And I hope that on this Independence Day, on this Yom Ha'atzmaut, it will help us move forward, realizing who we are.
Very nice. Well said. Very. I mean, just to your point, they're not just saying Gaza isn't ours. They're saying Sderot and Ofakim, right?
Right.
And Kfar Aza are not ours. So
You're right.
thank you. That's very, very powerful.
When they crossed the border from Gaza, they shouted to the kibbutzim, mustautinin, which means settlers, illegal settlers. This is what they call them. The kibbutzim.
Right.
For them, we're all settlers.
As I think Arik Sharon said, din netzarim kedin Tel Aviv, right? That's how they view it, and it's indistinguishable. It's indistinguishable from their perspective.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah, that's very important. So speaking of identity, you touched on it briefly, but you are representing a party called the Religious Zionist Party. You used to work for Mizrahi, so obviously, Emunah and the Torah as a foundation for our people's identity is very important to you. And I think bookending this period of time is Shavuot, when we mark the receiving of the Torah. So you go to the Knesset. It's very technical. You sit in committee meetings. People are screaming at each other. You're trying to pass laws. It's in the weeds, as we say in America. So what Torah attitudes do you bring with you, or can you apply to the situation today? What makes you who you are as a religious Zionist?
Wow, what a great question. First of all, you're right. If we're talking about identity, we cannot talk about identity without talking about the Torah. I mean, Rabbi Zach always talking about the fact that when Am Israel, the people of Israel, went out of Egypt on the first speech of Moshe Rabbeinu to the people of Israel, he doesn't speak to them about what's going to wait for them in the land of Israel. He's not talking to them about what's going to happen in the journey. He's talking about one thing: Vehigadita lebincha. Basically, he gives them the command, what we're talking about, everything we were citing in Leila Seder. Education. That's the first speech of Moshe Rabbeinu, the biggest leader of all time, the liberator of the people of Israel. What's the main message? Education, Torah, to connect to our roots. And I think that understanding that, again, if you understand the challenge, and as I said, I believe that this is the greatest challenge of our generation, then all the policies I'm trying to promote are basically those who support this kind of understanding. And also, I tell people a lot that when people look at what has happened in Israel in the past year and a half or so, all this tension between different segments of Israeli society. I mean, you can look at that and really panic. Say, what is happening? We are losing it. And you know what? On some aspect, maybe it's true. But I also, when I look at that from perspective, I think that this is part again of our people growing up. Again, for 2,000 years we were like babies, only concerned about our existence, and now we're starting like a teenager. And a teenager also, when he's a teenager, I mean it's like a whole mess, right? I mean you're fighting with yourself, you're fighting with your parents, you're all over the place. Why? Because you're basically developing your own independent identity, and I think this is what is happening also to us. And only if we will give good answers to this question, only if we will connect back to our Torah, to our land, to our people, and we'll be proud of of who we are and the big values that we have, only then we'll be able to really grow to the next level. And I think we are growing up. Maybe it's not pleasant all the time, but we are growing up. And I'll tell you one more thing. Everything we experienced in the past 76 years, we have to remember, just for the perspective, it's only one verse from the Bible. One verse of the Bible. 76 years. This is what it is. So we are in a very significant part of writing our own chapter of the Bible, but it's just a verse.
Very good. Well said. Beautiful. Very, very inspiring. So in closing, those who are watching this are in some ways feel a little bit helpless. We're in the United States. We're far away from rockets from Iran, far away from the situation on the Gaza border, but we care deeply. And there's always how can we be good advocates for Israel? What issues are important strategically? How can we? I would say the question is really twofold. One, how can we show moral support for those in Israel to show that we actually care? And number two is how can we show actual support on the advocacy side in terms of lobbying our representatives in the United States here, whether it's on the state level or federal level. In closing, what are some marching orders you can give to those watching this?
Well, first of all, I think also here we have to realize the complicity of the reality, because we've seen what has happened since October 7th to the relations between Israel and the current administration. And I must tell you that there are many people here in Israel who are very concerned, because if after the unprecedented attack of Iran with over 300 ballistic missiles and drones towards Israel, what President Biden was so in a hurry to call Prime Minister Netanyahu to tell him that America will not support Israel fighting back with Iran, that's raised a serious question about whether the administration is standing with Israel. I mean, when anti-Semitism is rising in America and Israel is fighting for our existence, and President Biden is more concerned, instead of dealing with what we're seeing in college campuses, he's more busy with sanctioning units in the Israeli military and sanctioning people who live in Judea and Samaria, just like myself. For I mean that I would even say that's unprecedented and unimaginable, and that's not for sure not standing with Israel. When the administration decides not to veto the scandalous decision of the UN Security Council to force Israel for a ceasefire without the demand of bringing back our hostages, without demanding Hamas to lay down its arms. So we ask ourselves, is that standing with Israel? So, and I can give you so many more examples of what was, I mean, the vice president talking about not selling arms to Israel, again, while at war for our survival. That's not standing with Israel. When we know that what is now happening in the ICC in The Hague, when we know that it's happening only with the support of the Biden administration. And thank God for the 8 senators who I saw today. They released a letter to the ICC telling them that if they will issue warrants against Israeli officials, then there will be sanctions from America. Thank God for that. But it's not coming, unfortunately, it's not coming from the administration. The administration, even as we speak, trying to prevent us from entering Rafah. The meaning of it, the simple meaning of it, is preventing Israel from the basic right to defend itself against those who butchered 1,200 of our people and kidnapped 250 of our people. This is what it means. It means that Hamas will stay alive. It means that we are keeping their hostages in their hands. It means that they will rearm themselves and they will and the people of Sderot will have to suffer from rockets all over again. This is what it means. That's not standing with Israel. So, I mean, I ask you to stand with us and to speak about, say the truth. I mean, I will give you one more example. I mean, even just talking about the two-state solution right now, people have to understand. I mean, I know that in American way of thinking, when you talk about two-state solution, living side by side in peace and harmony, it sounds great, right? It sounds beautiful. But people have to understand that the meaning of that is the destruction of the only Jewish state in the world. This is what it means. Because, I mean, we withdraw from the Gaza Strip in 2005. We gave it all to the Palestinians. In fact, they already had a state. Billions of dollars were invested in Gaza. What happened from that? What did we get from that? Did we get more peace, more stability? No. We only got more terror from that, more rockets, more underground tunnels, more hostages, and more massacre. This is what we've got, more bloodshed. So now you want to take this beautiful, beautiful success and to expand it to all of Judea and Samaria, to take all the ancestral homeland of the Jewish people, give it to the Palestinians, just a few kilometers from Ben Gurion Airport, from Tel Aviv, from Jerusalem, give it all to the Palestinians to be able to expand their rocket range. So, yes, we ask our friends to stand with us, to stand with the truth. Yes, to voice these messages, to tell your elected representatives that standing with Israel looks totally different than what we're seeing now from this current administration.
Wow. Okay. That's strong. We have our work cut out for us. Thank you very much. We really, really appreciate it. Hopefully next year, when this time of year rolls around, obviously we can never bring back the trauma and the loss, but hopefully we'll have a lot more to celebrate next year, Yom Ha'atzmaut, than this year. And you and your family should be blessed with good things. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Thank you very much. I just want to end with optimism also. First of all, I
Yes.
think, again, the fact that we are standing together, the Jews from all over the world, the diaspora Jewry, and people here in Israel. I mean, I know, again, I know you are also suffering from the same challenges of identity. How can you make sure that the younger generation also stay connected to their Jewish identity? This is your struggle just as much as it's our struggle. When you're fighting this crazy anti-Semitism in America, just as much as we are fighting these radical Islamists here, we are fighting the same battle. So we are fighting together. And as much as we will understand that we are together, we are one people, we are fighting together, I think this is one very important thing. So we are here for you just as much, and we will stand with you. We are, I know, again, you are in hard times also, and we will stand with you on these difficult times. But I also want to say that, I've heard from former ambassador to Washington, Ron Dermer, a couple of weeks ago. He gave an interview and he said that when he was ambassador to Washington, he met so many ambassadors from all over the world, but he never met the ambassador of the Persian Empire. And he never met the ambassador of the Roman Empire. All these superpowers that try to destroy us, they're not here anymore, but we are still here. And we will win. I mean, even if it's hard, even if it's complicated, I can promise you, Bezrat Hashem, we will win. We are here to stay.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. It's been an honor to hear from you.
Thank you.
And may we share Besurot Tovot, only good things.
Amen, amen. Thank you.